Tampa Bay Spirits presents Haunted Campfire Tales Live. Welcome. Gather around the fire. Get comfortable, but not too comfortable. The true ghost tales are about to unfold. Oof.
Hey, everybody, we all appear.
Hi, everybody. We're so glad that you're in the audience and you chose to join us tonight, whether you're watching it live or watching it another day or listening to it later on. We're really glad you decided to join us.
I'm Rob.
I'm Joan. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Beth.
Les.
Robin.
Joy. I'm Jess.
All present and accounted for.
Okay.
So, Beth, would you like to start us off with a card pull?
I sure would. The cards I'm using again are the Trust Your Vibes Oracle cards. So let's see if we can get something pertaining to our subject tonight. That would be very exciting, wouldn't it?
That would be fun.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, no.
What I got is listen to your heart. Listen to your heart. And tell me the number
44.
on that one. So trusting your vibes is an art and a practice of listening to your heart, for it's there that the voice of inner wisdom will speak. It helps us focus on not only the content of information, but its intent as well. Every time you need guidance or simple reassurance from Divine Spirit, just close your eyes, take a few deep cleansing breaths, very important, and place all your attention directly on your heart. Allow the awareness to rest there for a moment, and then ask your heart to guide you. I think a lot of times when we don't trust our own instincts and don't trust our heart, and we try to second guess so many things. And we see that a lot in our investigations, don't we?
Yes.
We definitely do.
We do. It's hard.
It is.
It's hard to trust what you're feeling or thinking. You know, it just is really difficult,
Sure
I think,
is.
for everybody.
So, we're going to start a new thing for the show tonight. We're going to all gather around the campfire,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to have a ghost story. And Joy, I think you're nominated to
Okay. Kick us
be the
off.
first one.
Okay. Well, this is one that my grandmother was from North Alabama, and she was Irish, and she felt like there were a lot of people in the family that like had sight and special powers and things. And she told us about when she was a young girl. She lived. They lived probably about 15 miles from town, which was a long way when it's like only horses and buggies. And they lived along a road, and their houses backed up like to a creek, and it was just a dirt road, and the neighbors weren't like right next door, but they were close enough that they could kind of wave to each other. But their farms and their fields were across the road. So every morning everybody had to, would get up early, and they would, cross the roads with their tools or whatever and work the fields and, harvest or whatever that particular time of year was. And most of them were families, but there was one widow that she had just lost her husband. And there were also like gangs that were pretty prevalent in that area of that were on horses, and they got into that area and realized that was a really good place to try to intimidate people and steal things because they had to cross the road every day. After a few instances where people were hurt, the husband started carrying guns. But this poor widow woman was by herself, and when she would go across, because she didn't tend the land anymore, but her garden was across the road. And so she would try to go early so she would miss these guys when they came by. And they figured out that she was coming earlier, and they would harass her on her way over, and then they would take what she had and push her down on her way back. And this continued to happen, and she had to get to her food across the road. And one day she just decided that she was going to try to defend herself, so she took her cane. And when they caught her in the middle of the road, she was trying to hit them with the cane to get them to leave her alone. And they actually beat her to the point where she was unconscious, took everything that she'd gotten and left. And the neighbors came and got her in the house. And they had ladies in the neighborhood that would take turns staying with her. And the first day that the men came back and they passed by the house, there was nobody there for them to harass. And they came the next day. And on the third day, they came through, and as the neighbors were watching, there a kind of a mist kind of came across the road and surrounded them on their horses. And then the horses were spooked and reared, and they fell on the ground. And then they started grabbing their throats, and they couldn't breathe. And that went on for a few minutes, and they were coughing and trying to get their breath and everything. And after a time, it stopped. And when the men got up, they were looked like rope burns around their necks. And they got on their horses and left. And the woman had died that morning, and they never saw him again. They never came back. So
Wow.
that was my grandmother's tale that she told us about something that happened growing up.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, yeah, it's pretty intense.
It is intense.
Very.
So is the supposition that it was her?
Well, that maybe her or her husband or something.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe her husband.
Maybe it was her husband.
Yeah.
But I mean, who knows? It was just, I guess there's no way to know, but it never came back to there.
Now, before the show, you said it wasn't, spooky. That's pretty spooky.
Well, you don't expect things in broad daylight. I mean, you usually ghosts to come at night or whatever, but that was witnessed by by everybody there. And
That
Wow.
was spooky.
Yeah, that's intense. That's wild.
It's very intense. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
I know. That was a good one, folks.
Yeah.
Well, today we're going to be talking about pet hauntings, and we did have one of our audience members send in his story.
Right.
Excuse me, because he
Yay.
didn't want to be on live.
Yeah. So I guess I'll read it. Sounds like it's probably a good idea for me to do it and not you, since you're coughing.
Yeah, go ahead.
At any rate, this is from C.W. Hawes, Chris Hawes, who's an author from Texas. And here it is. Here is the account of the visitations from our dog, Winter. When our dog, Winter, was dying, my wife at the time, Vicky, told her to go to the trees. Quote, "Meet me at the trees," unquote, Vicky told her. For 3 years after winter passed, she would meet Vicky out by the trees on sunny days. Winter's spirit presence was real. It was as if she was in her body. Her spirit would always be in the dappled sunlight up in the branches of the trees. Winter would already be present, waiting when Vicky came out to see if she was there, and our dog would remain for 10 to 20 minutes each time. Vicky told her we all loved her and missed her. Nothing vocal came from Winter. She just seemed light-hearted and happy to be there with Vicky. I never saw her, nor our daughter, just Vicky. I hope she's happy where she is. I do indeed miss her. She was my best friend. CW. Thank you for sharing that, CW.
Yeah.
That's very
And that was very sweet.
Pets are all very close to us.
Yeah.
More than we all think, I think.
Mhm.
I think so too. Does anybody else have a pet haunting they would like to share?
Yes, actually, I was thinking about something before the show started. I never considered it a haunting because I think of that as something else, like somebody distressed or, in my head, usually that's what comes to me. But when my dog River passed, I was heartbroken. And she had this favorite toy I called Stuffy, because for a long time she wasn't spayed for, I think, till she was 5 years old. So she would have false pregnancies, and she would take this little Stuffy, and it was her baby, and she carried it like her whole life, her whole 14 years. She always had it. It was ragged and everything else. And after she was gone for about a week and a half, I would find it in the middle of my bed. And I had it placed in the living room by her ashes. And I would find it moved to the middle of my bed for about a little over a week afterwards.
Wow.
And yeah, and like
Haunting.
I kept saying, oh, maybe it was the cats, but they never went near it, And I think I was trying to rationalize it. And then I thought, no, she was comforting me by putting it in my bed, I think.
Yeah.
Because I mean, animals, some people may be horrified, like, oh, animals don't have souls, but I don't. They have the energy that we have, the capacity that we have to care for their young, care for the people that become their family. So why wouldn't that energy continue? Just like our energy would continue. So, yeah. But anyway, so that's my story.
Well, and for people who believe, the Bible, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse come out of heaven on what?
Horses, yes. No, isn't it? Yeah.
Not a trick question.
So,
They're not on dragons, right?
Giraffes.
Giraffes.
if you believe in heaven, and then
The
there
4
are
horsemen's a misleading name, but
Yeah.
giant ducks.
Go figure, right?
So yeah, there's animals in heaven. I totally believe that.
I don't think it could be one without them.
I agree 100%.
Right.
Point.
All animals. I mean, they're all amazing. I think
The natural world is a miracle.
it is indeed. It really is. It's just breathtaking, isn't it? And what animals do, it never ceases to amaze me.
I mean, even you look at a spider's web, and that is
Yes.
just the most beautiful thing. I'm not don't want spiders as my pals on my shoulder or anything, but to see a spider's web, and like when the sun shines on it and there's like dew, or even just, the construction, and there are various constructions, are just miraculous. They're just amazing. Everything.
Jessie took a picture of just that one time and sent it to me, of a spider web in her backyard. It was gorgeous.
Yeah, it's so pretty when, like you said, when there's dew on it and the lighting is.
And even
early morning.
the function of it, like some people may be horrified, but everything has to eat something, and it's designed to catch its food, and it's just that's the whole thing that amazes me about nature is
I know.
and yeah. So heaven has to have nature. I insist. I know. Just please don't strike me for that. Don't strike me down for saying that.
Don't
I think
don't
you're
sit
good.
next to Robin. I think she's good too. Beth, didn't you have a story you wanted to share?
Yes, we both have a little piece of this story to share.
All right, great.
We've always had, not now, but we've always had little black poodles, the little tiny toys. And the first one was named Savannah Bell. And she was a huge part of our family. That's when the children were growing up, and she was everyone's bestie and just a little lover, this dog was. Well, when she passed, we were all, of course, heartbroken. But just a few days after she passed, we noticed some things that were going on. And she used to come into the bathroom with me in the morning when I was getting ready to go to work. I was doing my hair, my makeup, and she would always kind of jump up on my legs, and I'd reach down and pet her. And a few days after she passed, I'm in the bathroom doing my makeup, and I could feel her jump up on me. So, and I started talking to her, and then it occurred to me that she really shouldn't be there right now. But I, of course, kept talking to her. And in the evenings, we would sit on the couch together, and we had a little pillow that was always like in between Les and I that she would like to lay down on. And we had two poodles at the time. I think, was it Bo? Bo was the second one. And Bo alerted to the pillow. So I looked over, and you could see the pillow indent where like Savannah had laid there before. So she was still with us in that way.
Wow.
So Les, what about?
Well, I don't see anything or hear anything. Into that stuff, pick anything up ever. But I used to go out before we went to bed. We'd let the dogs out, and I go out and let them in, get them ready to for the night. So I go out and I let two dogs in. They come in, close the doors and stuff, and start getting everything ready to lock it up. And Beth says, "Well, where's Savannah?" I go, "I don't know."
Or Ellie.
Or Allie, whichever dog it was. They all looked the same. They were all little black poodles. Anyway, I let two dogs in, and 15, 20 minutes later, she asked, where's the other dog? I said, I don't know. I let her in, and we looked all over the house for her. The other dog was still outside. I let two in, but I'd left the live dog outside.
Oh my
goodness.
I had gone get down. I said, okay. I don't know what happened there, but I'm telling you, I let two dogs in a little while ago.
Wow.
So it's not much of a haunting, but it's definitely lovely visitation. And
Right.
Yeah.
yes.
Well, I think that word is just kind of
Yeah.
interchangeable, really. I mean,
Yeah.
Marjorie Deering has a story that she just posted a minute ago. And she says, our Siamese mixed cat, Holly, lived to be 21 years old. Whoa, Marjorie, that's a long time for a cat.
That's older than me.
Yeah. The sweetest, most affectionate cat we ever had. I'm absolutely convinced she came for a brief visit one night, months after she passed. I heard her scratching in the then absent litter box, then meow several times to say hello or goodbye in her distinct voice. It was her only visit, but it was a moving incident for me. Oh yeah, for sure. That's a really good story.
Thanks, Marjorie.
Yeah. Anyone else on the panel have a story to tell?
We're in the audience.
Well,
We're in the audience.
I have one. It's about a year ago. I mean, like you have little poodles, we had golden doodles, and we've been in this house for almost 7 years, and we hadn't been here 6 months, and my 13-year-old golden doodle passed away, and we always kind of felt like that Zach was still around, but we got another one so that so Bailey, our other one, would not be alone because he'd always been with Zach. And last year he was 4, and he he had an autoimmune reaction to the vaccines, and he died within days.
Oh,
And which was heartbreaking for us. And Bailey was really lost, and the two of them would come upstairs with me where the office was, and they would always lay by the desk while I was working. And I never really saw anything, but the last couple of months, whenever Bailey would come up with me upstairs, he would like stand and just stare into the office, and he wouldn't go in until I went in. And sometimes I close the door sometimes, so I won't hear the television downstairs, and I would hear scratching on the door, and I would go out, and I would think, well, is that Bailey? And then I'd see him on the other side of the desk, and I'd open the door, and there wasn't anything there. But he's been doing that now for a couple of months. He always waits and he stares. And we took him to the doctor a couple of weeks ago because Bailey has been drinking a lot of water. And we found out that he has cancer, and he's about to die probably within the next few weeks.
oh
And-
no.
And I just wondered if maybe the other dogs are there to comfort him or something. So
I'm sure they are.
I'm really sorry to hear that, Joy.
Yeah.
That's
but anyway, but maybe the three of them will be running around together, so
you know they will.
For sure.
What about you, Jessie?
Yeah, so I had a dog named Linus who was my bestie also, and he was a French Mastiff, or a Dog de Bordeaux, so he's big and red and had the swished nose and big jowls, and he was really, really sweet. He was like the best. There are some pets that you have that are just like extra special, and he was like that for me. And when I was pregnant with my first kid, Soren, we found out that Linus, my dog, had cancer in his jaw. And it's a pretty aggressive form of cancer that even with like pretty aggressive treatment, he probably would have lived much longer. And the quality of life wouldn't have been great for him. So, we kind of knew that we were just going to make him as happy as we could and enjoy our time with him. And what ended up happening is after my son was born, when my son was 2 months old, Linus finally passed away. And so it was really tough because, you're going through a lot of change anyway when you have a kid. But, also you're having like these really high highs of like having a kid and experiencing all of that, but also, losing a really beloved pet was really, really tough. And so with Linus, after he passed, we would experience things like we had tile floors in a lot of the house, and he had like a big leather collar that he wore with a little tag on it, with his info. And it was a very specific sound when he would lay down. You would hear him kind of settle and put his head down. And when he did that, you would hear his little jingle of his collar.
Right.
And we would hear that, like, after he had passed, him coming in and settling in the room. And another time, I came into the living room area, and on the glass, there were like nose prints, like, the same level where Linus used to, because he had, big fat drooly nose, and walk up and put his nose all over the glass looking outside, or if he wanted to go outside. And obviously we had cleaned the glass since he had been, passed, and we couldn't figure out how those marks got there other than if he was there. So,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Little things like that we would experience. And then our other pet, Twiggy, who we had at the same time, she was a little Pekingese. So we had this big, gigantic, slobbery Mastiff, and we also had a tiny little Pekingese that I got from a rescue who looked like Falcor from the Neverending Story, if anyone knows
Yes.
that reference.
Yeah.
But, and she lived quite a bit longer. She just passed away in 2020 in February. And after she passed away, my daughter would come out of her room at night and say, "Mom, I hear Twiggy," And we have Twiggy's ashes too. We buried Linus, but we have Twiggy's ashes and some little mementos from Twiggy. And, my daughter would come out at night and say, "I just heard Twiggy," like she was hearing her. And so I think I haven't heard Linus in a really long time. And she hasn't said she's heard Twiggy, but I agree with what all of you were saying, that your experience was with your pets. It felt a little bit like they were just, and like Marjorie said in her story, it felt like they're just coming by to say hello or maybe goodbye, or maybe comfort us still. Because I don't know about y'all, but with my pets, like if I was ever crying or upset or stressed, they would come and they were there,
Yes.
They sense
And-
your emotions.
They would let me, especially because Linus was huge, so I could like lean on him, and cry. And they were always there for me, so it makes sense to me too that they would try to comfort you when you're sad about them being gone,
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, also at the time we had an apartment in Miami, and so we would be down there a lot. And when we would come back, it was before we bought this house. When we would come back to visit, we would stay with Adam and Jesse. And when we would come back, we would hear Twiggy walking by where we were sleeping, and you'd hear his collar.
You mean Linus?
Linus. Who did I say?
You
Twiggy?
said Twiggy, yeah.
I meant Linus. No, Linus. I meant Linus.
I was like,
Linus.
well, Twiggy was there.
Yeah, Twiggy was alive.
Twiggy was alive.
Yeah.
But we would hear Linus when we would go there.
No.
And yeah, he was a good boy. He was a really good boy. I know that just two days before he died, we'd come in for Thanksgiving, and when we walked in the house, he leapt up into the air to greet us. And did he die the next day, Jesse, or 2 days after that? I don't remember.
I think he passed the next day.
The
I thought it
next
was the
day.
next day. That's what I
But
remember.
he still was so full of joy and
Yeah.
life, and
Happy to see us.
he was a great dog.
Yeah, he
Well-
looked like a giant, clumsy rabbit hopping this.
He was. I still remember him when he was a puppy, and he still had those, the round belly that puppies have, and it smells so good.
Yeah. That in the middle of their foreheads.
Yeah.
That have such good smell.
Behind their ears, their paws.
But he would chase our grandson, who's now 23 years old. He was in diapers then. He was 3 years old, and we would chase him around Jesse's apartment and bite on his diaper. And so he was a good boy. I liked
He
him.
was a good
Well, I'll tell you about Tito. All right. Tito, and like Jesse, we always had a big, ginormous dog and a little tiny dog. And so we had this 150-pound German Shepherd who wasn't fat. She was just ginormous. And a little tiny, Chihuahua. And that was Tito. Tito was the Chihuahua. And Tito was, I don't think anybody would say he was a sweet dog.
No, not really. He wasn't a mean dog or anything.
No, he was
just
a pill. Like one time he ate a pound of fudge
Oh
Christmas
my
time.
that
God.
my son-in-law had left. It was at Christmas, and he had left it on our coffee table in the living room. And he jumped up there and eaten it while we were all in the other room. And I mean, I was like, oh my God, he's going to die. I mean, chocolate, chocolate is
Right.
toxic to dogs. Yeah, no.
yeah,
Grow up.
he was chocolate resistant.
He shook a whole lot for quite a while,
He
but
did. Reacting to it, but
and so the German
If I remember
Shepherd,
right, he expelled quite a bit.
yeah,
Wasn't the last we saw of the fudge.
and then I had bought Easter candy for all the grandkids and had hidden it in our closet in the master bedroom. And he found it, and he opened up the chocolate candy. I don't know how he did this, but he opened up the chocolate candy and he ate it all out and smoothed out so there'd be these perfect aluminum clean squares all over the closet drawer. I mean, floor. And there was nobody else living in the house that was going to do that. So he wasn't a sweet, loving little dog. He was like a little leprechaun or something. And so now our big German Shepherd, he knew how to aggravate the crap out of her. And she would just take him and pick him up by the scruff of the neck like a puppy, like a mother dog does to her puppies, and shake him, and put him back down. But he would never learn. Just to give you an idea of his temperament. But every night he slept with us in our bed. He would jump up and he would sleep in our bed at the foot of the bed, but in bed with us, but at the bottom of the bed. And anyway, he got very sick one time, and our friend was our veterinarian, and he was a mobile vet. He came to the house and he said, we can do one of three things. We can just let him go, or I can put him down, or I can give you some medicine and see how long he'll last. So we chose the medicine, right? He lived for another year. I mean, I just think he was so stubborn. So one night he didn't jump up on the bed, and he had a little crate in our room. And he used to like to go in there and hide from thunderstorms and stuff. And sometimes he'd go in there just to get away from the grandkids when they were coming over.
when they didn't have chocolate.
Yeah, when they had no chocolate to give him. And so he had chosen to sleep there that night. And in the middle of the night, I woke up and I heard a sigh, and I just knew that he was gone, and he was. And I remember Bruce our veterinarian came to get him to have him cremated. And he said, I thought when I gave him that medicine last year that he'd live no more than 3 weeks. He said, I can't believe he lived the whole year. So anyway, Bruce had him cremated for us and had him at his office and said, just, come by and pick up his little urn and stuff. And we didn't. I just didn't want to go get the urn. So every night we would hear and feel him jump up on the bed and curl up at the bottom of our feet every night. And when we would travel, and Patricia, one of our other daughters, would come over to let Raya out, the German Shepherd, out, we used to let them out separately because he bedeviled the German Shepherd. So she would let Raya out first, and then she would let Tito out. And so she let Raya out, and she heard Tito barking and jumping up on the door because Tito always demanded to be let out right away. And she yelled at him, "Tito, I'll let you out when Raya comes back in." And then she was like, "Oh,
Wait a minute.
Tito's dead." But things like that kept happening, right? So finally, Bruce came over and he goes, "Here is Tito." And we were like, "Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry. It was just really hard." And Bruce said, "Yeah, I know." So we put him in our room with us on a bookshelf. Never heard him walking through the house, barking or jumping up on the bed again. I think he was just like, "Come and get my ashes, darn it."
I'm waiting for you guys.
Wow.
That shelf about what fell off. Something fell off just the other day.
Oh. Paul Hollis just said, "Made it. What did I miss? Start again."
We've been waiting for you, Paul.
Oh, Paul, I hope that your show was a success. So we had a toy poodle, and her name was Rachel, and she was really a really sweet dog. And when she was 2 years old, she got cancer, and our friend Bruce took care of her and kept her alive for a very long time. In the last year of her life, she had a brain tumor. Yep. The last year she went blind, and she just had really bad few years. In the last year of her life, Bruce got esophageal cancer. So, and we would see him every week, and he didn't charge us anything hardly for the visits. I mean, $12 for whatever test he was running, and that was it, because that was what he would have to pay. So he was fighting for his life, and he was determined to keep her alive. And in May 18th or May 21st, Bruce passed away. And on June 10th, Rachel passed away. I just felt like it was, once Bruce had gone, then Rachel left. And so we had her cremated, and we didn't make the same mistake. We went and got the ashes as soon as they came in. And so she's on a shelf in our bedroom with right beside Tito. And on my birthday, my past birthday, on that shelf, I also have a bunch of people have given me my birthday is on St. Patrick's Day, so people give me all kinds of little stuffies that are, about St. Patrick's Day, and little bears and stuff like that. And so there's tiger and just a bunch of stuff. So one of these little bears was sitting on the shelf next to where Rachel was. And now you got to understand now, there's a lot of little stuffies on that shelf. And then the two dogs' ashes.
And they've all been very secure.
For years.
Yeah.
On my birthday, the little stuffy that was next to Rachel hopped off my shelf and dropped right at my feet.
Wow.
So that's the only time I've heard from Rachel. I think that was Rachel saying "Happy birthday, Mom."
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really, dogs are great. Hey, Paul, do you have a dog pet haunting story you'd like to tell? No, a pet visitation, we're going to call it, because haunting
Yeah.
sounds scary, and it's not. It's really sweet when they.
Except we advertised this was about pet hauntings.
And I thought it was head haunting. I mean,
That would be much spookier.
That would have been pretty scary.
Yeah. Ooh. No, man.
But yeah, I do. I think. Oh, Paul says all my pets have haunted me in a good way. Paul, do you mean that they've all come back to visit you? See, that's the only time I felt Rachel. I mean,
We've missed her.
yeah, missed her a
Right.
lot. But I just, oh, yes, they've all come back to visit him.
oh,
You want to tell us the story? You can type it out and then we'll read it. I do. I think animals come back a lot. I mean, a lot. A lot more than you see people.
right. I actually, when Paul's done with the story, or I could squeeze it in between, I have something else I could say.
Yeah,
Oh,
go
go ahead.
ahead, because
Okay.
it take
Okay.
them a while to type it.
My first husband had a dog. Not first husband, sorry, my second husband. Oh, I'm so confused. My second husband had a huge Doberman. She was so sweet. She was 110 pounds, and she ended up with an enlarged heart. And the vet said, I can try, we can give her some medication. I don't know how long she's going to last, but it seemed obvious to me that she was not going to make it through the weekend. And he was devastated. He loved this dog. So did everything I could. I was like trying to hold her up so she could sleep, because if she laid down, she was pressing on her heart. And I ended up rigging up this sling for her in the bedroom so that she could at least get some rest before she went. I just wanted her not to be like in pain. And it was the strangest thing. It was amazing to see. She called the other animals, not by making a noise, but like telepathically. And one by one, the other animals came into the room, and they went up to her face, and they did this circle thing around her face, and then they would leave, and the next one came in, and then the third one came in, and then she turned and looked at me and died.
Wow.
And it was like she was determined to say goodbye to all of them. It was the most amazing thing to witness. Heartbreaking, but like I thought there was just this silent communication, and they all came to say goodbye.
Were they all dogs? Your other
One was a
pets?
cat and two were dogs.
Wow.
And the first one who came in was the cat, this little cat, and here's this big dog, and he did the nose thing, and then the other two dogs came in, and they didn't come in together. They each like took their turn, left the room, and the other one came in and then the last one, when she went back out, Raven turned and looked at me, and just that was it. She just died right there. But she went peacefully. It seemed like she'd said her goodbyes. She was, and that's not a visitation, but that's just like another example of how miraculous pets are, and animals, and just many things in this world. But anyway, I'm like, don't want to get I'm done. Zip.
That's all right. You're preaching to the choir, I think. I think
Yeah.
all of us here believe
Everybody.
exactly what you're
Yeah,
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paul Hollis said, no real stories, just miss them all. And Chris Chrisman said, good evening, all. And
Hi, Chris.
he said, whoops, sorry, wrong one. We had a dog that would come back and jump on our bed. Yep, that seems to be a common thing that they do, is jump on the bed. Storm just hit electric went out. I was all my dogs and cats ganging up. Don't tell that story or else.
Whoops.
Sorry.
Lily,
What?
or else what?
I promise from now on, I will read what you said before I read it out loud. Marjorie, can I put this on the page?
Yes.
I know, I'm kidding. Marjorie Deering said, I remember an episode of the Twilight Zone about an old farmer who died and was walking down a dirt road with his pet hound dog looking for the entrance to heaven. I
I
remember,
remember
that,
that
one.
too. Yeah.
Yep. As I recall, he was met at the gate by a man who welcomed him, but said his dog couldn't come with them. The man kept walking, knowing that had to be the devil trying to trick him because his dog would be certainly allowed in heaven. I think Rod Sterling got it right.
Definitely.
I
true.
agree
That's
100%.
true.
Does anybody else have any more pet stories?
I can't think of any.
No.
Well, while we're thinking, if you think of something, let us know. Why don't we go ahead and it's time for Tools of the Trade,
Yeah.
Ooh,
No.
yeah.
episode 6. Episode 6, everybody. Ready?
6.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Hit it.
All right. Tonight on this edition of Tools of the Trade, we're going to go into the EMF meters a little bit. There's a number of different meters. The one we're going to really talk about tonight is the K2 meter. Hopefully you can see it. It's one of the least expensive meters, and really, we don't do an investigation without this meter. It's helpful, it's quick, can help you locate where energy is. And as you can see, it's got 5 different lights on it. They light up different for the strength of the signal that comes in, and you can see how you can see them lit up. And the phone will set it off. And for the different strengths, you got different lights. And we use this mainly to find where events might be happening. And then during our EVP sessions, we can ask it to light up a light, 2 lights, whatever they can do in order to get a response back. And ask for them to light a light. They light the light, yes or no. And seems to be the easiest, quickest way to go. All right. And like we said, this is just a staple that we've always used. This would be the first meter you'd probably buy because it's the least expensive. It's around $65, I believe. And you can locate where there's activity and then make contact. And it seems to work with the voice recordings very well. Anyway, that's just a quick go on this K2 meter, which, like I said, it's a staple. Everybody, if you're going to start investigating, you should look into these. We'll go into other meters at other times, but this is a must. Thank you.
And we're back.
Good job, Les.
Yeah,
better-
good.
Yes, yay.
Better than I thought.
Yeah. Now, if anyone has any questions about any of the tools or anything like that, go ahead and ask questions. We'll be happy to answer it. I did want to mention EVP is electronic voice phenomenon, where you don't necessarily hear a voice, but when you listen to your digital recorder, there is a voice on there. And no, that didn't scare us either. It's kind of fun.
It's
It
interesting.
scared me.
It's pretty amazing.
We're all like, huh.
It's
So
really
funny.
amazing. It doesn't always make sense,
No.
Sometimes it's just a word, sometimes it's a whole sentence,
Mhm.
Has it ever been anything sinister?
I don't think we've ever had anything
We've never had any.
sinister.
How about you, Les and Beth?
I have, on a few of my travels, especially when I went to Iowa, there's been a few times.
Oh,
Went to
the last
Edinburgh.
pause.
Yeah. Well, and we went to Edinburgh, which was an old hospital. And it was very interesting, especially with the K2 meter. And when Les was talking about that, it reminded me of it. K2 meters are really good to ask a spirit question and they'll answer by lighting up those lights. And so that's really fascinating. At this particular hospital, we were all sitting in a circle in a small room asking questions, and there were probably 5 or 6 K2 meters on the floor. There have been a few different paranormal groups who had joined in this investigation. So they were on the floor, and it was very interesting to see that spirit would manipulate those K2 meters, either going across the circle and lighting up, or going around the circle and doing the perimeter and just lighting up one at a time, as well as responding when we asked questions. And it was very interesting. And I love when that kind of stuff happens. You can see I'm getting so excited. Just
What
Just,
I like,
you want to tell them about the pirate at Fort Mifflin when we were investigating there?
sure. And I was going to say too, what I love
Go ahead.
about using a K2 meter is that that's kind of always my first thing I grab too, to walk around wherever I'm investigating and to get what the baseline reading is, because you can use a K2 to see if there's any kind of energy output, like Les was showing in the video, like his phone was setting it off. So you can hold it up to walls or different areas and wherever you're investigating to find where those are naturally occurring because of power lines or cords and things like that in the home or building or wherever you're investigating. And then as you go through, you kind of know, oh, okay, if I'm over here, I'm going to get a response, and it's not anything paranormal. That's like a natural occurrence in the place we're investigating. So I always love the K2. We were using it in Fort Mifflin in Pennsylvania. We were doing an investigation overnight, and we were sitting in a room that was it had been like the barracks for the soldiers that were stationed there, and they had like these wooden platforms still there that were where all their cots were, you know, where they would all sleep. And so there were several of us all sitting there, and I was sitting on one of these wooden platforms where their bunks had been, and we were getting responses from something. So we would be asking questions like, you know, were you stationed here? You know, were you a pirate? You know, we were asking different questions. Were you a prisoner here? Were you stationed here? You know, like things like that. And we were getting responses. Now, I'm not sure which part, Mom, you wanted me to talk about, but we were getting some responses about me. Somebody, do you remember what they asked, Mom? Somebody asked about me being there.
I think it was that young man that was wanted to investigate with you and me and Trish. And he said, do you mind that girl sitting on your bunk?
Yeah, he had been asking something before that though, and we were getting really strong responses.
We were, yeah.
And then he was like, well, is it okay that she's sitting on your bunk?
Yeah.
And he said, you know, are you upset that she's sitting on your bunk? And it went crazy, bonkers. And we were like, is it because, you know, she's a woman?
And shouldn't be
was
in the men's barracks?
Yeah. And so it was very funny. They were like, did not like that. It was very upsetting to them that a woman was there sitting on the bunk. And then at one point I got, you know, we were sitting in the middle of it was a big room, and I was wearing jeans, and it felt like somebody had walked up and took their finger and went thunk, and flicked me on my side of my leg, like kind of near my knee. Yeah. And I was sitting, and I like stopped, and everybody else is talking still, and I'm like looking, and I'm looking for was it a bug? Was it a beetle? Did something drip on me? You know, I'm like looking all over the floor. I'm looking to see if anything was near me that could have touched me somehow, you know. I could not find anything that would have done that. And then we were asking more questions to the K2, and I said, I just got flicked. Like, and we asked if it was them, and it lit up yes, you know. So that was really, really interesting. Sorry, I'm losing.
You're disappearing.
I'm slowly disappearing.
I'm melting.
And talking about Fort Mifflin, like a month after you guys got back, at least a month, we were going. I was sitting in the living room. We were going through the digital recorder evidence that we had, and what did we come up with?
Well, I had asked the question, is there anyone here who would like to communicate with us? And what did we hear?
I would like to communicate with you.
Yes, I would. And it's like
clear as a bell. It was a male voice.
Now, what you need to understand about EVPs, and everybody will testify to this, is you don't usually get a voice saying, yes, I would like to. No. You usually get like, you usually get like, I don't know. Yeah. You know, it's not really clear.
It's difficult, I think, most of the time for most spirits to vocalize, you know.
That's when I learned to play it back immediately and afterwards, because he wanted to talk with us, and who knew what he wanted to say, and you could actually understand what the heck he was saying, and I didn't pay attention. But what I was talking about was the next day when we went back, Jesse, and we had sat in that room where the docent told us that it was haunted by a pirate, and we were talking to him, and we kept asking him, and we had all our K2 meters and Gauss meters out. Marjorie says you're all a lot braver than I would be in those situations. Wow. This is like scary. Your calling, Marjorie. It's something we are born to do.
I guess.
Of all the spirits, Chris Chrisman says, of all the spirits I've encountered, none have ever been vicious or mean. Yeah, there are some that are not so nice, but you don't meet a lot of demons, which I think is what people are afraid of. But anyway, we were told about this pirate, so we went back in, and we all had all of our meters out, our K2 meters and Gauss meters and stuff like that. And we asked for 45 minutes for him to give us a sign, to speak to us, to light something up, blah, blah, blah. Never happened. And we do not believe, Tampa Bay Spirits does not believe in provoking. Provoking is when you see those ghost hunting shows. And I don't mean the ghost hunters, because they don't provoke. But some of the other shows where you will see a person yelling at them and saying, you know, just saying mean things and challenging them and stuff like that. I wouldn't talk to any of you that way. Why would I talk to somebody who just doesn't have a body but is still a person that way? I wouldn't, you know. But because I was with my daughters and there was nobody else in the room, I said, to be funny, oh, the big bad pirate can't even turn on a couple of lights. Every meter in the room redlined. Everything went and was buzzing, vibrating. Sarah was sitting. I know. So I immediately said, oh, I'm sorry. That was a joke. I was making a joke to my daughters. I didn't mean you any disrespect, but honestly, you could feel the anger.
Well, we didn't think that anything was there.
So
that's why we're saying that.
It wasn't being like funny.
Yeah.
And so then Jesse's sister, our other daughter, one of our other daughters said, oh, well, did you have a big boat? So I'm dying, right? And all the lights went up again.
I'm sure it was a very large boat. Everyone was very impressed, for sure.
It was probably bright red.
So cool.
Oh, that was one of the funniest K2 sessions I've ever had in my life. I will
Yeah.
never forget that. I mean, honest to goodness. Did you have a big boat with your puppy? Oh, yeah, see, ghost hunting is fun. Chris Christman said you were blushing, Joan. I know, I was so embarrassed. And then when my daughter said that, I thought I was going to pass out. I was laughing so hard. Did you have a big boat? Okay, here's the question I need to know the answer to. Oh my goodness. Oh dear. Anyway.
So we have fun with the K2.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And like Jesse said, it's really good for eliminating any electrical problems that could be happening, which
Right. A lot of the older buildings have
not good
wiring that's not shielded like it is today.
Mhm.
You know, so it really gives off the EMF.
EMF. Mhm.
And
and that can cause hallucinations and feeling of paranoia and
right.
all kinds
Feeling
of
like someone's watching you.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So you have to eliminate that first when you go in. That's called a baseline reading, and
Yeah.
and that's what you do.
We went on a hunt one time, private residence, and one of the biggest EMF, I don't know, makers or creators or whatever you want to say, was the old alarm clocks.
Yeah.
You set by your bed, and it would put out so much EMF. And these people were having trouble with sleeping, and they were having headaches and all kinds of stuff. We go in with the meters and stuff, check everything out, and they had, I don't know, maybe a queen size bed at the most, and they had an alarm clock on each side of
Ooh.
the bed with their heads between these two alarm clocks.
Oh,
And we showed them that and proved that to them, and that's why they were having so much trouble.
Yeah. And that can't be healthy, right?
no.
Clearly it was not, it
No.
was affecting them.
So was that house being visited at all, or was it just that?
Do you remember?
I can't recall which house it was, but I do remember the story.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty funny. So see, we can be helpful in other ways besides
Other
just
ways.
funny.
That's right.
And that's what we want to do, right? We want to check and make sure it's not just bad plumbing or something like that, because a lot of people think that if the water faucet is running and nobody's turned it on, that must be a spirit. No, it can be water pressure.
Right.
It can make that happen. So, it's not always a ghosty. So there are some things that are obviously a ghosty. So, but yes. So now you've learned you can buy an EMF detector, K2 meter, and go out and start your own little ghost hunts and take out a digital recorder and ask questions and see if you get answers. But do listen to the answers.
And protect yourself before you go out and when you're done.
Yeah. Whatever your belief system
Bless
is,
you.
protect yourself. Yeah.
Try to prevent from dragging something back home with you.
Exactly.
That's not
Exactly. Or, someone.
Done that, been there.
Yes. We have too.
So-
He stayed 6 months.
So, speaking of ghost hunts, next month we won't have our normal campfire tales, but we are going to try to do a live stream. We're going to be in Texas at the time, Les and Beth and Joan and I, on July 3rd, the night of July 3rd. So mark your calendar. That's a Monday night. It's right before July 4th. How about that? Easy to remember, right? But we're going to try to do a live stream from the Haunted Hill House in Mineral Wells, Texas.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah, that'll be fun to watch.
Fairly well-known place.
Infamous.
Yeah, I'm not sure what kind of coverage we're going to be able to have to carry on a live stream or how interesting it might be. But there might be a whole lot.
2 hours of waiting.
So we're going to start there at 6 o'clock Central Time. So and we're going to be there all night. So we
7 o'clock Eastern Time.
Yeah, we might come in and out. We might do several different pop-ups, during that time period, depending on how active it is.
Well, they said they had a studio and that we should be able to broadcast from there.
Yeah, so I think we'll be okay.
Finally, we'll be able to do a live stream because it'll
Yeah.
have internet and everything right there. And that's what stopped us from doing it when we were in Tennessee. We had no signal. We couldn't broadcast.
So we're going to try that. That's July 3rd. And then, so that's going to pretty much be our monthly podcast. Then we'll probably be the end of August before the next one.
Yeah, the last Thursday of the month.
Which would be the 31st. So yeah, we'll be back to the normal schedule then. So if you, anybody that's listening to this, you have ideas for subject matter, please email us, put it on our Tampa Bay Spirits Facebook page, either the group page or the regular page, either one. But we need ideas, and we'd like to talk about stuff that you all want to hear about.
Exactly.
And if you have paranormal stories that you want to share, if you want them to be anonymous, or if you want to share your name, that's cool too. We'll keep them anonymous if you want, but you can email them to us, and we would love to share them and talk about them on the show too.
Mm-hmm. And any questions that anybody has, we'll be happy to answer them. And
running across the screen right now is 2 email contacts for us, lesgre28@aol.com, or Kristen, KREINISCH, SCH2. It went right off the screen.
Here.
Oh, there it is over there. Okay. KREINISCH2@gmail.com. You can use either one of those 2 contacts, email contacts, to send requests or comments, or you need us to investigate if you live in the Central Florida area. We'd be happy to talk to you.
Yes. Yep. We would love to help you out if you have anything going on in your house.
Right.
We'd be happy to help you out. We're not always silly and goofy. We're
not always.
That's not true.
All right. We are always silly and goofy, and I'm sorry.
I can't promise that.
We're always silly and goofy. So be prepared. At least you won't be scared in your house anymore.
Right.
You'll be like, oh, well.
You'll be laughing with us.
Yeah, this is not so bad. We don't think it's bad.
Anyway, anyone else have anything else they would like to share tonight?
Or another question from the audience, anything that you want to know, we'll be happy to answer.
I have a question. How often do you come to Pennsylvania to do any sort of ghost hunts? Because you were at Fort Mifflin, so I was just curious.
Oh, yeah. Well, whenever there's a good place to go. We've done Gettysburg, and we want to get there again. We all do, I think. The whole team does.
Yeah.
Only because I live in Pennsylvania.
Well,
we'll have to see if we can do that.
We'll go north, and we'll go through Indiana and visit Joy, and then we'll come on over to you, Robert.
Actually, I heard where they that there was recently, I know there's a plane that crashed into a hotel here years ago, and one of the surrounding towns of Indianapolis. I live just in a suburb town south of Indianapolis, and there's supposed to be, there was some ghost hunters of some type there, and they said it's one of the biggest spots in Indiana for activity where that was. I don't remember the name of it, of the hotel when it happened. I don't know if anybody remembers that.
I don't.
It was probably about 30 years ago that the plane crashed into the lobby of that hotel.
Oh, and it's been haunted ever since?
Well, that's what this this ghost hunter, I didn't read, I just skimmed the article real quick. And because I was like at a time I had a time crunch at the time, so I didn't get a chance to read it. So I have to look and see where that is.
I think it was the Ramada Inn.
Are you
That
Googling
sounds
that?
about right. Sounds about right.
That's our little researcher there. She finds it like this.
It looks like 1987, October 20th, 1987. Yep, it crashed into the Ramada Inn.
Wow.
Interesting. Yeah, we'll have to look
Does
into
it say
that
how
one.
many people died?
Let me see. Okay, 9 employees passed.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Yep. I think it was the 9 employees.
wow. That's sad. Now, see, something like that where you die so quickly and unexpectedly, that usually leaves a lot of energy.
And I'm pretty sure that's where they were talking. Where did it say it was? It wasn't in Indianapolis proper. It was in a little place. Does it have, or does it say Indianapolis?
It does say Indianapolis. This is
I'll have to check. I'll have to check and see if I can find it to make sure it was the same one, because I'm not aware of any other one that I'd heard of with a plane crash. So
Yeah. That would be suspect if planes kept crashing into hotels around Indianapolis.
certainly would, but I'll have to see what it was.
Something wrong with air traffic controllers there.
Yeah.
I have to do a little research on haunted places in Indiana and see if I can find it.
There's several there.
Pennsylvania, though, I think by far to me is probably one of the most haunted states
I think so too.
in our
Oh,
country.
there's a lot of limestone there, I think.
Yes.
A lot of limestone and a lot of battlefields
Yeah.
but the
Yeah,
limestone
both
and water.
Revolutionary and Civil War. Yeah, there are a lot right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I know that Beth and Les and we have all gone to Gettysburg and heard the cannons being fired and the rifles being fired, and there was nobody there firing cannons or rifles, though I'm sure they do reenactments there. But
You would
Yeah.
know that. You would it would
Yeah.
be obvious that yeah.
and I know a lot of people have seen actual apparitions.
Mm-hmm.
We never did. I mean, we saw things, but there wasn't apparitions. But
Actually got some photos in Gettysburg, which looked like soldiers
Mm-hmm.
in a field.
In a field.
a lot of people see that.
Yep.
I
There
mean,
were many times that I would look at Les and say, "Do you see him, or is it me?" Because it was confusing.
And what would my
sometimes.
answer have been? No.
I see nothing.
I see nothing. Ever.
Well, that's the problem, though, is that you don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you see things, you're like, so is that a person, or
Right.
is everybody else seeing this, or I'm the only one?
I just did that last night. We pulled up at the house and it was dark, sort of dark in the front of the house. And I was like, I think I see a man standing at our front window. And he's like, I don't see anything. And I'm like, well, I don't know if it's there or not. I don't know if my eyes are playing tricks on me, but it looked like there was a man at our front windows.
That's happened to me twice in the last week. I saw that one apparition, that one person walking through our bedroom, a woman, and then not 10, 15 minutes later, I saw a man walking through our lanai. And And I went running out there and there was nobody there. But they both looked like real people. They looked solid.
And one of the
Maybe
one of
he's
the
the one
one
that
I,
knocked on our door the other night.
Maybe.
Yeah.
yeah,
Maybe. That's what he was a shadow person. If my eyes weren't playing tricks on me, it was a shadow person.
Yeah.
At least I wasn't creeping through the house with a bat, looking for somebody.
well, I wanted to make sure everybody knew that this podcast that we're watching, this video podcast that we're doing right now, tonight will be made into released as a podcast, and is going to go out to a whole bunch of different outlets as a podcast, audio podcast. And over the last from the last show, the last time I looked anyway, we had mostly America, mostly the United States, but we had two downloads from Ireland and one from Sweden.
Oh, I
Nice.
hear you're doing too.
So we're getting out there globally. So anyway, thought that would be an interesting
That's great.
for y'all.
Yes.
We can't do any
Going international.
investigations over there, but
Yeah. I know.
we'd
Oh,
sure
maybe
like
we could.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a plan.
you can send your
We'll come.
invitations.
That's right. Our passports are ready.
They're
There
good.
you go.
Yeah, we can still go.
Well, they better hurry up because ours expire next year, I think. So hurry up.
We can always renew, no
Well,
problem.
that's true.
We'll
Anyway.
bring all our haunted animals with us, our little ghosty friends.
Yeah.
We'll all come marching in.
We will, one by one. So do you have anything else you would like to talk
No,
about?
does anybody else?
No.
If
Just please send us some ideas of what you want to hear, because we think we know what you may want to hear, but we might not be getting that right. So please send us some great ideas.
Yeah, and Dad, are you going to be putting polls up still?
be putting what?
Polls up for people to
Yes.
choose
Yes.
the topic?
Yeah, I'll do that tomorrow.
We know that Joe Conjal still wants to hear about the difference between remote viewing and astral projection, which I'll have to do some looking into that, and you can too, Jesse, because I'm not sure if I know enough about that. I do know about remote viewing. That I do know.
There you go.
Because I'll do that.
I
But
hope we got a whole bunch of mineral well stuff to talk about.
Oh yeah.
They claim that
Yeah,
they guarantee we're going to pick stuff up. So we'll find out.
that's
Well,
exciting.
I
Hopefully,
think, go ahead.
I was going to say, hopefully I can join in and maybe we can talk about this off air too, but maybe I can join in and while you guys are out and about, and then you can come back and share a thing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That'd be cool.
Sure. Yeah, we can do that.
Absolutely.
And I can answer questions about what you guys are doing so you can focus and
Oh, that's a really,
It's a really good
good idea.
Good idea.
if you guys can,
We can
you know,
coordinate that, I think.
Because I would really like to show people how, before we go in, how we protect ourselves, you know?
Yep.
And
We wear spacesuits.
We just got mine in the other day. It's
Did you? Real good. Yeah.
that too.
I
yeah.
can't wait to see.
oh, Chris Chrisman said it's two different things. I know it's two different things. I'm just not sure that I understand, you know,
The technical.
You want to do
technical-
research about, yeah.
yeah. Because I think I did astral project. I think I did two different times. One was with that Indian guy, and that was scary. That scared me. Okay, I don't like you know, leaving my body.
Oh, if you do make that does become subject matter of another one. I have a couple experiences with that, so I could.
Oh, astral projection.
All right.
When I was young.
Awesome. Yeah. Chris Chrisman said remote viewing is more like ESP, though actually he first said it's more like ESPN, which
Which is
Chris,
more of a sporting event,
our
right?
daughter Barbara always says that everybody in our family has ESPN. And, and we're like, ESP, Barbara. It's ESP. And astral travel is leaving your body. Yeah. And he said, I have too, Robin. That's what he's saying. And I think I did twice. Is a near-death experience the same thing? Because I died.
You left your body.
Yeah, I left my body, but I don't know if that's the same thing as astrally projecting somewhere, or just, okay, you're dead, you're going somewhere.
You got hijacked.
Because I did leave my body. I could see my body. I could see the doctors working on me. I could see my grandmother and my aunt sitting out in the waiting room with our two oldest, with Barbara and Susan, and crying. And my grandmother said, "Oh my God." And so anyway, I think that's kind of like what astral projection is, except when you astrally project, do you want to do that?
Chris Crispin says, indeed,
Near-death
experiences,
the spirit leaving. Yeah.
Makes sense. Similar kind of thing. But.
And the other time was when I was meditating, and I went to see this shaman, which I didn't ask to go. Scared me. I didn't meditate for a month, and wasn't sure how I'd get back to where I was sitting in the living room before I left.
And Joy, I love that you brought up that story about that hotel, because like that was, I was already down a rabbit hole of research, but that's a great point too. If anyone has specific stories that they're interested in hearing about, like specific stories they've heard before, paranormal stories, UFO, cryptid, specific things, I'm happy to research that too.
I'm not positive that's, because if that was the one, there should be something about there being somebody there, but I don't remember it being in Indianapolis proper, wherever it happened. So it may not be the right hotel, but
maybe we can figure that out.
I'm sure you can figure that out. Yeah.
But the final thing we should take away from this is don't fly into Indianapolis.
Evidently. Unless you already have a room.
Chris Chrisman says meditating leads to astral travel. So, yeah. So, however, I would rather that it be my objective to do that than to have it just happen
to you.
Yes.
Rather than being hijacked.
Yeah.
Yes, I would like to be.
Exactly.
And he did. He needed to get a message across, but he could have just done the whole remote viewing thing and it would have been good. But it's a very strange thing. So
Meditation usually leads to a nap with me.
That may be why you never see anything.
Probably why I don't. I'm already asleep.
There you go.
And meditating does help you before you go, Chris Chrisman said it can be trained, Joan. You can learn to control it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because it's not great to just spontaneously jump out of your body. No, it's not. It's a little scary.
Yeah, it's kind of a hard landing when you come back too, isn't it? Like a boom, like ooh.
No, it wasn't. Like I told you, there were these two huge dogs or dire wolves or something on either side of me. And later on, after we did some research, we found out that in one of the indigenous people's tradition, and I think it was maybe Navajo, and that two dogs stand at the astral plane of going from this veil to the next veil, right? And they protect that. And they were right on either side of me, and I felt protected by them, not threatened by them. And I didn't feel like they were protecting the shaman. I felt like they were protecting me. And then afterwards, after talking to everybody about it and everything, I felt like they were protecting me from going through that veil over to the other side. I mean, I really do. That's what I think. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I'm not going to stick to it. If somebody else knows more than I do about it, then I'm willing to learn. But that's my theory right at the moment. It's never happening again, and I do meditate now. And I think that meditation helps before you go into investigation to help open you up to hearing things and seeing things. Yeah. As if we need help. We do need help. That was a joke. Okay.
All right. Want to invite everybody to visit TampaBaySpirits1.com. You can hear all of the audios. You can hear all of the videos. You can go to our store, see all the tools of the trade, mostly starring Les. And but there's a few other guest stars there. And, generally enjoy. So I guess.
Anybody else have anything else to say? Any more questions?
Okay. All right. Until next time.
That's all, folks.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Night.